343, Edmonton sports leader, TSN 1260, as they are playing highlights of some of the best goals from the playoffs. And not surprisingly, Connor McDavid's been up there a few times on the big screen here at the Bell Center in Montreal for the 2022 NHL entry draft. Welcome back. I'm Jason Gregor. It's the Gregor Show, is always presented by PlayAlberta.ca. We got lots more draft coverage coming up, but let's get to the racing report. Brought to you by CanTorque. There are a few tools to listen to the show, but none of them are built as well as the tools from CanTorque. Check them out at cantorque.com. As Colin Livingston joins us once again. And Colin, I want to start with IndyCar. We were talking about how unpredictable it was, but what about the fact that Team Andretti they were crashing into each other the whole time? Rossi and Grosjean and Herta, and didn't Michael Andretti finally had enough and kind of had to read the riot act to his drivers?
Yeah, I mean, there was obviously wasn't there this past weekend. I was in Saskatoon at the kart race, but a couple of my counterparts said that Michael went on a real rampage trying to corral all of his drivers. Even in some of his reports this week, he made comment of making sure that people remember that they're employees of Andretti Autosport, that they're all working for the same team. And that kind of driving is not going to be tolerated the rest of the year. I mean, it doesn't help that Rossi is already signed with McLaren for next year. So he knows that he's leaving, and any repercussions that are going to be coming are going to be fairly limited for him. But yeah, Grosjean was a bit of a wrecking ball and really failed to even acknowledge the fact that he had done something that was, kind of questionable. I mean, honestly, all of the drivers involved were mostly overly aggressive. I think the contact with Colton Herta was definitely not Herta's fault, but Grosjean and Rossi hit each other a couple of times over multiple laps. And then, to have one driver walk away, and in an interview today, he actually said I think everyone knows it wasn't my fault. Just going to end up fanning the flames before they run again this weekend. I think they actually run this weekend. I'm not actually sure, to be honest.
So, how does a race develop this type of personality? Is this built up over time, or is it just someone's woke up on the wrong side of bed and hey, we're going to be aggressive, then everyone follows suit?
Well, Grosjean has a bit of a reputation for this kind of stuff. He is not shy about, whether it's not shy, or, maybe a little bit careless about sticking his car where it shouldn't be. He always tries to make the impossible move. And that goes back to his days, even at GP3, Formula One. It was a theme for him. Pretty quickly after the race, I saw Rossi's interview, where one of the neat skills that I've managed to pick up is reading the driver's actual meaning when they say certain things. And Rossi all but said, yeah, I did it. Yeah, it was intentional. And he had it coming to him. He used words like, yeah, it's really unfortunate. It was an on-track incident. And, I really hate it for the team. If it was the other guy's fault, you automatically start pointing the finger. There's obviously been some turmoil in the team meetings. There's been some turmoil behind closed doors that now is starting to spill onto the track. And I'm not really sure that this is over. And I'll correct myself. The next time that these guys are on track is next weekend in Toronto. So that's the next race. We'll be out there with our Pinty Series. Probably we'll probably stick around a little bit and watch some of the fireworks and see what happens.
Colin, switching to F1, quite the race at Silverstone. There was some excellent passing, like that sequence in lap. I think it was 43 and 44 was incredible to watch. You know, Charles Leclerc, man, that he's got to be like, talk about, hey, you might race for the team, but man, twice this season, he's kind of got screwed over by his own team. Is that, you know, there was that late race caution and they had to leave him out on the old hard tires, and everybody pitted and went for softs. And I know that Binotto said after the race that they didn't think there was enough space between the two cars to have them both stop. But man, that basically cost him the race and allowed Sainz to get his first ever F1 win.
Yeah, I mean, that's really, 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 really a few more times really strange to say that they didn't have time to pit both cars when Leclerc was leading and Sainz was second. If you don't have time, the leader is always the one that gets preferential treatment, except in a situation where, you know, one driver is drastically ahead in the championship, but even then, you know, the lead driver the lead driver gets the preferred treatment because they're the leader. So for them to stick him out or to hold him out, give Sainz the opportunity to pit is really, really strange. And equally strange was Matteo Binotto's comments afterwards, trying to explain why they did things the way they did. It just made things even more confusing. But yeah, Gregor, I mean, you're absolutely right. The sequence of the passing between Perez, Hamilton, and Leclerc, where they went back and forth over a couple of laps through multiple corners, and you know, even Lewis said, you know, it's really great to be able to race guys like this through these corners without making contact. You know, really going back to the incidents that he had last year with Verstappen. You know, where Verstappen did not give an inch, you know, bitched and moaned when they made contact and he got out, but, you know, didn't really think anything of it when he ran Hamilton off track. I mean, it was fun to watch. Really, really excellent driving.
Let's talk about that accident that came. I mean, that was all over TV and the social media. Well, how did that develop? And amazing, the outcome wasn't maybe as terrible as it looked.
Yeah, I mean, you know, really unfortunate set of circumstances. You know, a couple of cars, it looked like Gasly got into Russell. Russell got turned into Zhou Guanyu, which sent him tumbling through the gravel traps, over the fence, and got trapped between the tire barrier and the fence, where it was really tough for them to get him out. Now, you know, F1's adopted, and rightfully so, has adopted a policy during their broadcasts that in these kinds of incidents, they don't broadcast them in case the injuries are, you know, serious or even fatal, because they don't want that kind of image to be, you know, shown, and, you know, especially for the families, if things like that happen, that's not the image you want to see. So it's really tough to, you know, talk about how they recovered him, how they managed to get him out of the car, how they pulled the car out. You know, the overwhelming, you know, safety point to take away is that this halo saved his life. You know, for the people who are still opposed to it, you know, because it doesn't look right, or, you know, racing supposed to be dangerous, you know, do yourself a favor, do all of us a favor, just stop watching racing, because these are people, these are, you know, human beings who have families who, you know, are really just doing a job. Everyone knows that there's a risk when you go racing, that yes, you can get injured. Yes, you can get killed, but that should not be, if there's a way to prevent it, that should be implemented at all costs. It doesn't matter what a car looks like if you can save a person's life. And, you know, kudos to the FIA for making sure that they overcame all the negative, you know, negative feedback, negative talk, to make sure that, you know, that thing was in place. Otherwise, you know, we could have had a fatality.
Well, you're right. It was crazy to watch it, and thankfully, no one was seriously injured from it. Colin, I know sausage curbs are one of your favorite topics. You know, they came up again. Have you ever seen any reason why they haven't gone away from sausage curbs to this point? Why are they still part of it?
Like the most dangerous words in business are, that's the way it's always been done. And I think right now the FIA and the world of racing is saying that the original idea behind these things was to create a deterrent for drivers driving offline and breaching track limits. The problem is, yes, they're a deterrent, and yes, if you hit them, it's going to upset your car. So if you're out by yourself, absolutely, you're in control of that vehicle. Unless something goes wrong, you should be able to avoid these things. The problem is when somebody runs you offline, something untoward happens to your car, gust of wind that's unpredicted, something that's out of the driver's control. These things should not be launching people. They should not be creating the kind of damage that they are. They're such a barbaric, archaic idea to prevent drivers. If a driver drives offline, there's a penalty in the rule book that your lap time will be eliminated in practice and in qualifying. And in the race, you can get a time penalty if you continue to breach track limits. At that point, penalty's been rooted out. If you drive offline, if you go wide, that's what's going to happen. Why are these things still in place? And I saw a great quote. Alexander Wirtz, who's a former F1 driver, he's now the chairman of the GPDA, the Grand Prix Drivers Association, said, he struggles to hold back on speaking publicly about the matter of sausage curbs. Said the fact is that they have been and always will be an ill-born concept. How many more shunts, how many more injuries will we have to witness when it goes for sausage curbs at an apex or, baguette or banana curbs? Like, he hits the nail on the head to say, like, this was a terrible idea from the beginning. From a driver's perspective, it will always result in bad things happening, especially in untoward or unexpected situations. But one of the underlying rules that I figured out over the years is no matter how unlikely a set of circumstances is to line up to create a situation in racing, it will eventually happen. Justin Wilson was killed a bunch of years ago when a piece came off a car tumbling down the track. He couldn't see it. He couldn't slow down, and it caught him in the head. Billion to one set of circumstances that led to that, but it happened. And, IndyCar responded immediately by creating the windshield. These guys these motor racing associations can respond when they need to. And it's not a real big task to take these things out. It's a grinder. A lot of the time these things are bolted in. You put a coat of paint on and people forget that they were ever there, and you actually improve the safety, which is, people talk about in these sanctioning bodies always talk about safety being paramount. And yet, here we are.
Cantork Race Report, the Colin Livingston on the Jason Gregor Show on TSN 1260. Colin, the Pinty Series, NASCAR Pinty Series out east, challenging weather, obviously with some rain. How much did that affect practice, qualifying, and then who didn't take the pole?
Yeah, originally, that goes back a couple weeks when we were out there, but what a great set of fans that they have out in St. John's. The weather started out okay. We were originally supposed to have a 90-minute practice session followed by qualifying. Everything got squeezed into a 60-minute single session where your best practice lap became your qualifying lap. We were supposed to race later on that day, but everything got pushed to Sunday because it was just raining, nonstop once we got that practice session done. On Sunday, we got the weather that we needed. This hotshot rookie, Brandon Watson, from Ontario, he's been driving great. He's got seems like they've got a really good package. He took the pole. But we also saw lots of carnage during that race. And, to the organizers' credit, Mike James and Patty and all those guys out there, they didn't have a lot of time to get the track ready to NASCAR standards. They were awarded the race in April. But we saw lots of just really, really, really hard damage when drivers made simple mistakes, or again, somebody ran them up into a wall or whatever, that was out of a driver's control. But, LP Dumoulin took one of the hardest hits I've seen in person, brushed the back straight wall, cut a tire, sent him into the barrier, essentially destroyed his car. Our friend Brett Taylor from Calgary, Maybe a little over ambitious on the start, locked up his rears getting to turn one as he overcaught the field, spun into these Jersey barriers, these big, multi-100-pound concrete barriers, knocked two of them completely over, moved a third one, just on and on. Hopefully we get that stuff fixed. Hopefully now that the guys have a year to prep for next year's race. But at the end of the day, it was great. Marc-Antoine Cameron got the win. Trayton Lapsevich, he's having a great season on the ovals. He finished second, and we're off to Toronto for next Friday's race.
And lastly, Colin, how did the karting go in Saskatoon for Rotax Canada?
Guess it depends which driver you want to talk about. Under our tent, the CRG tent, Matthew Taskinen, he had almost perfect weekend. Had that kart running like a beast. Took the majority of the heats pole. Ended up finishing second in the final. Just got pushed into some debris on the start. Lost a few positions, but wasn't going to take any unnecessary chances. Jared Freeston, he's a previous Grand Finals ticket winner. He was definitely the man to beat in DD2 Masters. So, the older group of us, the 32 and older crowd, Jared was the guy. I ran okay. I wasn't expecting an awful lot. There's some real solid performers out there. Unfortunately, I had a mechanical issue in the final, so I wasn't even able to take the green flag. But we dust ourselves off and try and get ready for Summer Challenge and the second leg of the Rotax Canada Final that comes up in Warburg at the end of the month.
Awesome, Colin. Have a good week. Enjoy racing. We'll talk to you next Thursday.
Yeah, enjoy the poutine, man.
Oh, buddy, no, the Shane Show at the Bell Center. It's one of the greatest hot dogs you'll ever have. So good. Yeah. Already crushed two of them, so might have another one of those. There you go. That's Colin Livingston in the Racing Report, brought to you by Cantor.